What is up, guys? Welcome back to a video. Hope y'all have an amazing day as usual. Before we get into today's video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and always comment down below. It really helps out with the videos. So, yeah, guys, I almost got arrested today, and I know what you guys are thinking. You're like, Drew, what did you do? Well, let me explain. Number one, nothing was intentional, anything like that. I had no idea what I was doing. So let's get into it. So it's about freight trains, okay? I was actually, which I did not know, I was going to go see some freight trains. So it's a long story, but let's go explain it. So I haven't seen a freight train, or I haven't rail fan for freight trains in months. And I was going to do it with a friend. He lives in Fair Lawn, though, so we were going to go to Teaneck. I live in Montclair, New Jersey, which is about 15-20 minutes from Bergen County, which is where he lives. So he couldn't figure out a time, though, so I was like, I forget about it. But because it was President's Day and I had the day off from school, I was like, I didn't just want to waste today, so I decided to go down to Ironbound, Newark, to go see some freight trains there. And it's really close to the Port Newark, so there's tons of trains that go through there. Norfolk Southern and CSX trains, which, for the people that don't know, those are just the two main freight companies that run east of the Mississippi River. If you're on the West Coast, you probably have Union Pacific and BNSF. But for most of the people, you probably don't follow trains, so you probably wouldn't have any idea what these companies are. So anyways, long story short, there's a street, right? You can look it up on Google Maps, and the Google car actually went through it. It's called Avenue I. And so I assumed, because the Google car went through this street, that it's public property. I had no idea I was actually trespassing. So I was walking on Avenue I in the middle of a rail yard. And it wasn't really huge. There were only, I think, there were like 4 or 5 tracks. And then it just went on down to some back roads in the industrial area, which I didn't go that far. But I was completely unaware. I was actually walking around that on that street for a good 5 to 10 minutes, like just completely unaware. There weren't any, too many railroad workers. There was one guy who was moving freight cars, and another one was backing up some of the engines. And I guess they were probably the ones that had seen me and decided to call the cops, because railroads have very strict trespassing policies for obvious reasons. There's a lot of people who vandalize trains, and it's just so dangerous, freight trains and freight companies they don't have very high-tech equipment to keep people safe like passenger trains do. So, but any train's dangerous, obviously, but freight trains are an exception. They're even worse. But like I said, I totally thought it was a public street because it showed up on Google Maps. The Google streetcar literally went down into private property, which I didn't know was private property. There were no trespassing signs everywhere, but I assumed they were only for the tracks and like the maintenance yards and all that stuff. I thought that the street was still public. And eventually I was just sitting by like a little boulder, actually on the tracks. It was just on the road, and it was actually past a fence. There was a fence. It was actually on the other side of the fence, which was not part of the yard. I'm not sure. I don't know the boundaries, but so then there were 2 railroad workers in a pickup truck. They said, you gotta find somewhere else to see a train. So I was like, all right, fine. Gave him a thumbs up. All right, we're good. So it was either one of the people that was moving the freight cars, or it was those 2 guys in the pickup truck that alerted the police. And freight companies have their own police department. Most of them, they don't really rely on like city police. They have their own police departments just because they need to have somebody investigating the freight trains, because people can steal things out of them, and people can vandalize. So there just needs to be security there all the time. So anyways, as I was leaving, I was getting kind of hungry, so I'm like, I'm just gonna leave. As I was leaving, walking down this road, which I didn't realize was private. I don't think once I was leaving, the portion where the police officer saw me, I think it was public at that point. But anyways, I saw it said it was just an undercover cop car. It was a all tinted black Chevy Tahoe or Suburban, and it just had like a little sticker in the dashboard that said Norfolk Southern Police. But he was a real police officer. He had a badge, a gun, everything like that. He said, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And he asked me how old I am, just a lot of questions, obviously. And I was surprised. He was acting really rude at first. Like, he was being really nasty with me because, just freight railroads, they have to be strict about trespassing just because people can get hurt so easily. So he was really, angry at me. Eventually I, just explained to him. I mean, we were there for a while, and I just had to explain to him. He, could kind of tell by the way I was acting and what I was saying, and just stuff like that, that I wasn't trying to do anything bad. And what's kind of weird is that I wasn't with anybody. I was just alone this time. But they had a report about a person who was running in the rail yard around the same time I was. And I said, I don't know who that is. And he thought I was lying at first until I really told him I was not with anybody. I didn't know who that was. But anyways, after a while, he started to become more friendly with me. And, I wasn't at any point, I mean, I was, nervous, obviously, but I wasn't crying or I wasn't acting like really, really scared because I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong. It's not like I went in there with a can of spray paint, just graffitied up freight trains, because that's what a lot of people do. And I wasn't doing anything wrong other than intentionally, at least. I was completely ignorant about the fact I was trespassing. So I think he understood that. He said I was like, a good kid. Just, you got to be more careful. Thankfully, he didn't like bring it to a measure where I would have to go to, like, my family would have to go to court or anything like that. Thankfully, I mean, that saves a lot of time, and he could have wrote me a big fine. But like I say, I had to tell him, because truthfully, I'm not lying. I did not know that I was trespassing. And he said, well, just because I said to him, because I tried to act a little bit more. So I'm using like better, like talking very, professionally. I'm not like using the slang I would use on my YouTube channel. You know what I mean? Or the slang I would talk in school. You know what I mean? I was like really just talking to him professionally about this. I was saying like, okay, so I'm getting in trouble for something I was completely ignorant about. That's what I said. And he said, well, it's doesn't matter if it's ignorance, it's the law. And so I'm like, okay, well, anyways, but eventually, and then another dude, I guess, who worked on the railroad, he didn't have a CSX uniform, but he was dressed in um a neon orange shirt. It wasn't like one of the safety vests. I actually have a safety vest. If you don't know what one is, I'll show y'all. Hold on. This is what a safety vest is. Anyways, he was just wearing a orange shirt and some boots. He was just dressed up like a, blue collar worker. And he was talking to the police officer as he was talking to me. And the police officer, I think they knew each other, but the police officer got really mad at him because he interrupted us. But anyways, that's totally besides the point. Yeah, this was my, I think this was, yeah, this was my first time ever, getting confronted by police for trespassing. But again, like I said, this was, totally unintentional. This was not intentional at all. I wasn't, going in there with, plans to trespass or anything. I just wanted to see some trains. So, at the end of the day, the end result could have been a lot worse, And, I just decided to be as honest as possible. I'm not always 100% honest. I am pretty honest, but no one's honest 100% of the time. We all have to, make like little white lies here and there. But, you cannot do that in front of a police officer. You can do it, but they'll always find out eventually, So it's just better to tell the truth to a police officer. Yeah, this was a pretty crazy situation to be in. But like I said, it wasn't worth it to really get scared or cry because I knew I wasn't, doing anything bad, just mistakenly trespassed. So, okay. So since this is a little bit confusing to you guys, this might come off as a little bit confusing as to why I didn't know I was trespassing. So let me show you guys on a map to make things a little bit more easy for you guys. So here, I was right here. wait, where was I? Okay, so I was right by South Street, where I eventually went down right here, Avenue I, which, as you can see on the map, is a public street. And I'm just going to click on a little location right here so you guys can kind of see what I mean. So there's the street right here called Wheeler Point Road, which super industrial, as you can see. And this is, so I guess past this bridge or whatever, it officially becomes private property because it's all just industrial. So what I did was I actually went back here, and doesn't it look like doesn't this genuinely look like a public road? So anyways, as I was going down the street, see, even the Google car went through here. Now, obviously, I would know better than to actually go, you know, hop a fence or something like that. Like, that's not what I was doing here. So this is, see, the Google car actually goes back here. And you see, this was the boulder I was sitting at. So I wasn't actually on the tracks or anything. But see how the Google streetcar actually goes back here? It goes back kind of far too, you know? Like, it goes all the way back here. And that's why and the street even has a name, Avenue I. So that's why I thought that it was a public street. I just thought that, you know, these were just, you know, regular railroad crossings. But, anyways, this is a very bizarre situation to be in. So I hope that, clears up, you know, if you guys were confused. Just, you know, the moral of the story here is just always just be careful, you know, where you are, especially if you're going to go see trains, because, you know, trains are super dangerous. You just have to know where you are and, you know, make sure that you're not trespassing because they are very, very serious about it. So that's going to finish it for today's video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and God bless all you guys.